Well, we'll go ahead and get started because I know last time we ran through this, it was about 35 to 45 minutes. So it looks like we have 22 people on, which is awesome. And I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your, COVID, stay at home. Hope you're all wearing masks kind of day so we can all come here and learn about how to conduct virtual meetings. So many of you may or may not, talk to your grandkids or your kids or coworkers using Zoom or web, Skype and things like that. So there's all kinds of venues out there to be able to basically hold virtual meetings. So one of the feedback items that at least I get when I talk to some of the councils is sometimes councils have a difficult time trying to come up with a specific day and time because some people work, some people have full-time jobs during the day or night, or they have different time zones. So how to collectively get people together, preferably face-to-face to have a meeting. Well, face-to-face now could be virtual because you can see the people's face. Just because you can't reach out and touch someone, you can actually touch the screen. So by providing a venue and options for now councils to conduct virtual meetings, I think it would really enhance your opportunity. And, there's a lot of things you can do with these virtual meetings. You can share documents, any kind of stuff. So what we asked Danielle and the staff to do is put together a bunch of options, and we'll put it up on the webpage. So if you council presidents or whomever want to, get this information and maybe explore a venue that you'd like to take, whether it's free or if you want to pay a subscription charge, then at least that information is available there. So Danielle and the staff, specifically Danielle, has done an awesome job in putting this together, giving us a lot of options. So, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll turn it over to Danielle and you can go ahead and start.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, John. I think definitely we've all been thrust into this much more virtual world than we're used to, Navy League headquarters staff included. So we just wanted to go over the basics of hosting some virtual meetings and some virtual webinars and any sort of content or gatherings that you might be trying to do virtually over hopefully just the next couple of months, and then maybe things will return a little bit to normal. So obviously step one is choosing a meeting platform. Some things that you should think about prior to selecting a platform that you're going to go forward with is you should have a vague number of how many participants you plan on having, and also an idea of how much money, if any money, you have to spend, and also any time limitations that you might have on the meeting. Typically, most of these software platforms have a give or take in one or a few of these areas. So of course, with cost, you can increase your maximum number of participants and your maximum time on any sort of platform. But knowing before you go in will help you select the appropriate platform at the lowest cost that you can purchase it for. I want to go through a few different video conferencing options. I wanted to start with Skype because I think it's just a brand name that everybody has heard of. It's been out for a very long time. All of these slides they're available currently on the training page of the website. So if you don't get these URLs for how to download the platforms, you should be able to go on that page of the site when you're signed in and download this, and then these URLs will be there for you, so you don't have to scribble them down really quickly. So Skype is, of course, a Microsoft product. I actually learned through this process that it is in a 2-year phase out, and it will eventually be overtaken by Microsoft Teams, which many of you might have heard either through work or through, I know some schools are running platforms, their virtual school sessions through Teams now. But for now, Skype is a separate product. It is free, which is great, but there are some limitations with the free version of it. The first of all, your number of participants. You could have 10 voice-based participants in a call, or you could have 25 video-based participants. These are very hard time metrics to reach, but I suppose it's possible that someone would use it for more than 100 hours a month, then it would become no longer free. And also it wouldn't be free if you were using it for more than 10 hours per day or more than 4 hours per call. So certainly if you were planning on having a small but long meeting that went beyond that, I would consider using a different platform. But this is the legacy, and I think you'll find that some of the other platforms we discussed today are a lot more robust than these original products that came to market for virtual meetings. The second one I want to talk to are two Google products, Google Hangouts and Google Meet. And actually, there's been a little bit of an update to how Google is handling Google Meet during this time frame. So before, if anybody is a Google user, specifically Gmail, if you go to your Gmail, all your contacts are on the left side of the page. You could chat with any of them, and you could have a video call with any of them, and that's Google Hangouts, formerly I think called GChat, so an evolving product there. You could have 10 video-based participants or 25 total, and of course you'd have to have a Google account. But Google has a separate product that's a little bit more for enterprise use, and I believe some schools are also using it during this time frame too, that's called Google Meet. And Google has actually made Google Meet free until September 30th. So I think this is a really good, viable solution for many councils. You have 100 callers with no time limit, so if you don't anticipate having more people than that, I could pretty highly recommend the platform. I used it myself earlier this week to chat with some friends. It was very easy. I just went to my Google Calendar, I created an event. Now that there's this integration with Google's Gmail product, it just said, do you want to make this a virtual meeting? And I clicked yes. And I sent the link to my friends that I wanted to join, and they were able to join. No problems from anybody. So that was really easy, really great. I think there are enterprise versions of the product that require things like passwords. If for some reason you're willing to spend the money to have a meeting that where the access to it isn't open, that's a consideration. But we found that it was just very easy. And I think I read that you could have up to 16 people on screen at a time, 16 or 12, something like that. So, and it was very intuitive. Whoever was talking was the person featured on the screen. So yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised at how well that product worked. And you might as well use it if it's free. I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if things, stayed a little odd after September 30th if Google wouldn't extend that deadline too. So really good product out of Google. I want to pivot a little bit and talk not so much about you talking with your other council members, but talk about like if you wanted to have a speaker and have like a presenter style format. So Facebook Live, if you are expecting a large number of people and you want them to be able to view a speaker that you've lined up, Facebook Live is a really robust option, but please note too that of course it requires you to have a council Facebook page, but you could, if you go to this facebook.com/live/producer URL, it'll walk you through all the steps to set this up from your council page. But yeah, it won't mean that only your council members can access it. It means that anybody on Facebook that you promote it to can access it, which might be great. Might be a great like free opportunity for you guys to reach new people. But all the chat occurs through Facebook kind of messenger window. And you can prepare to go live. There is like, once you do this walkthrough of setting up your event, you can do a practice run and not everybody on your whole Facebook can see. You can promote it in advance. But just know that there's only 2 people that can be broadcasting at a time. So you could do something like your council president and your speaker are both up on the broadcast, and that person comes on, welcomes your speaker, introduces them, and then maybe facilitates questions for them from the chat. So not everybody can talk, but it's a good way to reach a whole bunch of people at once. And there's a lot of add-on products that hook into Facebook Live that give you a lot of sleek production options if that's something that someone in your council is comfortable with. It's really like a sky's the limit situation in terms of production. Obviously, I couldn't leave out GoToMeeting. It's how we're all here today. A little better in the fact that, unlike Facebook Live, we could all talk to each other if we wanted to, but we're using our voice. But it does come with a cost associated to it. Obviously, we share your screen. It's what I'm doing right now, 100 participants at once. It's not free, it's $12 a month, but if you know, plan on just having one council event a month or, a couple a month, I think the $12 could become pretty easy to use. And as you guys have seen, you just enter through this link. We're all here today, so we all basically hopefully know a little bit how this platform works. But all in all, a good platform. And I just wanted to talk about two different platforms at the same time here, just because the specs on them are exactly the same. RingCentral and Zoom. I think Zoom has certainly won the COVID-19 video conference popularity contest. It is a platform that I think the strength of it is just the tiling of all people's faces. If you've seen people talking, or if you've been watching, Saturday Night Live, how they've been doing their broadcasts remote, you can see all these different people at once. You could have 100 participants at once, and I'm pretty sure that's the video limit. I mean, it could be, probably depends on your device. Obviously, if you're on a mobile device, you're not going to see everybody, but really great way to just interact with a ton of people at once. It can get a little bit chaotic, of course, everyone's talking at once. But another cool thing I found in Zoom, I was participating in a video chat with an organization, and they had set Zoom up to have breakout rooms. So it was kind of like, we could all come together with our big conference, and then our breakout room is almost like, oh, now we have our little table of people that we could just talk to a couple folks, and then we can come back into the main room if we wanted to. And I thought that was really cool, because in a way that kind of mirrors how you would interact in person a little bit better. Pretty rare that you'd be sitting talking to 100 people at once. But it kind of gave you the ability to go in and out of different spaces if you set it up that way, virtual spaces, and have kind of some intimate conversations, but then also have this big conversation with a bunch of people at once. So both of these products do come at a slightly higher cost than the last product, $14.99 a month for unlimited meeting times. But if you don't want to make that investment and it's something a little bit more casual, what I've done and a lot of friends have done is you just can set up a meeting. It'll have a 40-minute countdown clock. And if everybody just says at the end, like, hey, if you're still talking after 40 minutes, just use this link again and log back in. The same link will work over and over. So if it's not something where you'd be concerned that you're interrupting a speaker or something, you could all just decide at the end of the countdown, like, hey, let's just log in again and keep talking. So as long as you do that for every 40 minutes, I mean, I haven't tested it more than once. So I don't know what happens after 80 minutes, but 80 minutes is a pretty long meeting. So I found that to be a pretty easy workaround to get around the $14.99 a month. So here at the headquarters, we're changing to a lot of digital content. I hope some of you witnessed our virtual CR Space Week that was broadcast on television here in the DC area locally, but also through a partnership we had with Fed Insider. We ran webinars nationally. We also had a pretty successful Small Business Opportunities Week with the Navy's Research, Development, and Acquisitions Office a couple weeks ago. And we learned a lot through that process of what it takes to have a meeting where you have some speakers talking, especially if you're speakers from the military or Department of Defense, or, for us, these people are very important stakeholders in the organization, so you want things to go as flawlessly as possible. So here's just a couple of things that we learned. It's not on here because it's not applicable to every platform, but we saw it at the top of this one. If you're using GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting rather, you want to tell everybody, of course, to come on mute, mute your phones. It's just some general good housekeeping stuff. Of course, that wouldn't be applicable if you're on some other platforms like Facebook Live, then you wouldn't need to do that because you're not getting audio from a bunch of sources, but that's just a note dependent on what platform you're using. Of course, for your small informal events, you want to have your meeting planned in advance, send around a meeting link if applicable. Just want to give people some preparation to know that you have a meeting coming up. I think it's good, certainly, to make sure that everybody has software installed and they can use it in advance, especially for people who maybe brought a work computer home and they don't have a personal computer. You know, a lot of IT departments will hamper what you can install on a device that's owned by a company. So just ensuring before you get there that your device is compatible with the meeting software that someone has set up for you. Of course, like as a meeting organizer, it's good to keep your email open or your phone near you or a chat program up. Inevitably, sometimes people are going to have connectivity issues to get into a meeting. So it's just good to have a second line of communication just in case there's a problem. You could kind of troubleshoot with people. And then, of course, you could, to make things easier, especially for people who are on mobile devices or smaller screens, you might, if you're trying to look at content, but you're trying to look at each other at the same time, it might be easier to send out your meeting materials in advance. Maybe they can print them and then they can follow along, but still look at the people at your meeting. And then for these larger meetings, you know, that's the stuff we've been experiencing. There's really nothing that replicates practice. For each webinar we did a couple weeks ago, we did 2 different practice sessions just to make sure we were comfortable transitioning from slides to video or video to a person talking, introducing a person, making sure that they knew how to work their microphone, they knew how to work their camera. You know, you want these people to look good and you want to feel like your council is being represented really professionally for the people watching. So I think those practice sessions are really key. It makes everyone feel a lot more comfortable too with what you're doing. Some sound and lighting stuff, of course, you know, you don't want to be in a really echoey room. You don't, if you can avoid it, and I know not everybody can these days, if you're, you know, your dogs are barking or if your kids are running around or whatever the situation is, just trying to get yourself to a quiet, private spot and take care of any sound issues like that. Lighting, when we've been working with, you know, we worked with Government Matters and professionally, you know, they normally do television lighting. They said, of course, you don't want to be backlit. It makes you look like a shadowy figure on the screen. Best if you could get some sort of like even side lighting or lighting coming from the source close to your camera. Of course, that'd be great. And I find just going to different areas of my house vastly different. So just playing around with where you want to be, keeping your background pretty simple. I think, you know, if there's too much going on or it's cluttered or whatever. And also, if you're in Zoom, if you have like a perfectly clear background, you could use one of those fun Zoom backgrounds, and then you could look like you're anywhere. Let's see. So, of course, like I said, you want to get comfortable. We found, and maybe you will find, for our speakers, since they're all military or Department of Defense, they absolutely cannot access any virtual meeting platforms from their work device. Every speaker we've had so far has had to either come in direct from a Pentagon Studio link or they have had to use a personal device. The Department of Defense obviously is taking a very, as they should, a very strong stance against the risks that come along with these open source platforms, or not open source, but these open platforms. You know, there have been some security concerns with some platforms. Just be prepared if you have a speaker that's, you know, Navy or Marine Corps or whatever it is, Coast Guard, that they are probably gonna have to use a phone or maybe a tablet just to be able to access your speakers for the session. I really wouldn't count on a work device at all. We also found, just to make the transition from a speech to the virtual question time a little smoother, we solicited questions in advance via email from people. It's pretty challenging to, you know, people are typing in their questions. It doesn't have the immediacy of being in a room together where you can just raise your hand and there's a lot of momentum going into question time. So this just prevents any sort of dead air. We also did find that it was much smoother to have somebody read the questions to the speaker than have the speaker deal with their own questions. You know, sometimes the questions that are coming in are not about the speaker's topic itself. It could just be about, my audio doesn't work, how do I get it to work? Or, you know, something along those lines. You want your speaker to really, you know, spend maximum time answering the questions your audience has, versus trying to, make their way through all of these questions to see what's most relevant. The other thing that was nice, especially Department of Defense, is that gave our presenter some time to look at all the acronyms and kind of turn that alphabet soup of the government into a real question. So it was really, really fortunate for us to have Luke on staff. If you haven't met him, and he's in our Government Affairs Department, excellent MC for programs. So if you could find somebody in your council that does half as well as Luke, I think we'd all be in good shape, just very poised. I wanted to end on this. I think it's something that I think about 2 of our councils have, to my knowledge, taken advantage of during this time where it kind of feels like, well, what content do we bring people? We had a woman named Chris Garland reach out to us from the Navy Office of Community Outreach. I think she's based in Tennessee, so that's her time zone situation. But she is happy to assist each of our councils with curating content that's relevant to your area, getting speakers to come to you. I think so far she's helped the council in Pittsburgh and in South Carolina. So she's been able to find them. I think Pittsburgh, she shared a ship tour or something along those lines, some virtual content for them. And South Carolina, she got a speaker with a tie to that area. I'm not sure if they've set up the meeting yet for it, but she got somebody to agree to work with their council and talk to them during the time. So I just can't recommend enough reaching out to this woman. I think it's nice to all just have our regular getting to know each other chatting meetings, but if you really want to continue the kind of activities that your council was doing prior to any sort of quarantine, I think this is a great resource that's come to us, and definitely probably a good person to just have for the rest of time. Like after this, if she still does that sort of thing, I'm sure it will not all be virtual forever. So really good resource that came to us. And that is really it for the presentation side of things. I'm happy to take questions or hear about some successful things your councils have been doing.
Hey, thank you, Danielle. There were a couple of questions. I tried to answer them. It was mostly on his, that Tom had asked if headquarters has tried to negotiate a Navy League discount on any of these platforms that we have to pay for.
I have not heard of that, and we haven't been subject to a discount, certainly. It's not outside the realm of possibility. We just haven't had anybody ask that. So it might be challenging just because usually these things are single point platforms. But certainly I could see some scenario at least where maybe you get a region together and a region purchases, makes a purchase and then it's available to everybody. It's just a question that hasn't been asked. So certainly we could look into some way to make things more economically feasible for folks. Okay.
And then, Jane was saying that they've been pretty successful on using their GoToMeetings, and they recommend that. So Jane, did you want to expound on that a little bit? Jane, you're on mute.
Barry, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we had 2, one with Destroyer Squadron 31 CO, and we had one this week with the CO of the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard and maintenance facility. Both were very successful. And GoToMeeting, you can mute everybody, so you don't depend on people doing it themselves. And we don't see each other unless we want to. Basically, we just have the MC, which is our president. Then we have the person who set it up in charge of what we call our bridge, our CPAR bridge group. And then we have the speaker, and as we do introductions, and then it's just the main speaker. You can see on the left side, and then his slides are there that he controls. It comes up all the time. They're asking if we can record because this is DoD, and they are doing it from home. And just because of DoD content, we just don't think it was wise to record and never know who's going to see it if we have it on our website. So, but GoToMeeting was good because the format to do the invitations to the membership, which we send out through Constant Contacts at our council. And then after the fact, through GoToMeeting, you can actually solicit for people's opinions on the event. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. And Tom, yeah, there is copies of this. It's going to be on the website. In fact, it's up there now. We talked about that last week in our committee meeting to make sure it's up there because we knew the question would be asked. Okay, does anyone have anything?
John, this is Carrie. Gerald asked a question, and maybe you could go over that answer you gave him about if you don't have a Google account.
Yeah, it just, you know, and it's if you have the Google Meet. So you don't need to have a Google account. It's recommended that you do, but if you do not, then the meeting organizer is going to have to grant you access into the meeting. So I've never tried it without having a Google account because I do, you know, I put that up on the chat. So one of the things that you know, I see that people are chatting, and Sam left because he didn't have any audio. But you know, when you do the chat and you bring that chat box up, down on the bottom it says who you're going to chat to. So you know, Sam was responding to everyone, and you know, and the people that are seeing this are probably thinking, heck, what's Sam talking about? Because he says I'm received no audio, and then he said yes, and then through my computer kind of thing. But I was chatting with Sam, trying to troubleshoot with him privately, but then he was responding publicly. So, you know, for the people that you know, you can use the functionality, and all these devices or these venues have the ability to do private chats. And then they have the ability to do public chat. So just be careful, you know, if you're going to start dogging someone, which I know you won't, but, you know, sometimes I do, my family. And you put it on everyone, and it's like, oh, my God, you know, it's not like anything. You just send it an email to someone they didn't want to, right? It could be embarrassing. But it's a great way to do mano-a-mano chats by just, you know, picking a private one if you just don't want everyone to see what you're talking about, or if you think there's a stupid question. Some other comments though, you know, I use at work, I use Skype, and it works great. It's a great screen sharing. It's a great video tool. But I'm sure where I work, they probably have, you know, seat licenses, and they probably pay a lot of money for it. So they're not using the free one. But with the way that a lot of the nomination meetings, nomination committee meetings, and for the region meetings and area president meetings, things like that, are probably going to be virtual. So, you know, hopefully the region presidents are probably starting to explore how they're going to conduct these meetings, especially if they can go face to face. So I would encourage them to start looking at the various options and getting people at least getting familiar with it, so you're not spending a half hour, an hour, you know, trying to get people's video up or someone's, you know, audio up, things like that. I have got feedback from some councils who have been using Zoom for membership meetings and you know, the join ups and the mixers, and the feedback we're getting is it's been awesome. That they're getting huge participation, because you have some of these people that can't go out to a dinner at night because they don't want to drive, or they don't want to drive too far. So, you know, they're just eating dinner at home, but at least they can do council discussions and, you know, provide feedback about the Navy League and things like that. And at the same time, they're getting some of these DOD speakers to join in, and they're finding it, you know, hugely beneficial to have these kind of, you know, discussions via Zoom or another media device. So, you know, take the information that Danielle provided and just start playing around with it. You know, in Zoom, you know, schools are using it, families are using it, and it's really an easy way to do it. And the Zoom device or the Zoom, it's free. You can use it 40 minutes And then after that, it's going to kick you out. And if you just have just tell everyone on the Zoom, because they give you a countdown clock, just tell everyone when you get kicked out, dial back in, you get another 40 minutes. So you can go as long as you want for free. So there's just a lot of options out there. So with that being said, Danielle, appreciate everything that you did. It's awesome. And I know it's up on the web. And if anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to provide them.
This is from the New York Council. Thank you very much. You really enjoyed it. I got to go back with my mask now and disappear. Take care.
Yeah, really. All right. Well, everyone stay safe, and thank you for participating. And, if you guys have any recommendations or experiences, please feel free to share them with me, and then I can share it with all the council presidents, and we can put it up on the website so people can, have a lessons learned document, so we don't have to repeat all the issues that people have. So I thank you for everyone, and you guys have a great rest of the day. We'll see you. Thanks.